Let's start off by defining what financial freedom is. I think a lot of people think of it as getting to some place at some point. When we want to really talk about it's the pursuit of it.
Financial freedom isn't just a number in your bank account. It's
Right.
not 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. Your financial freedom comes with the very idea that you have the ability to create something.
Money is a renewable resource. It's not that you're going to make a big pot of it and that's going to be the end of it.
We stay in distraction and we stay in this idea that we're victims and that we're victims to the economy. If you want to create financial freedom, figure out how to solve a problem for yourself, for someone else.
Welcome to Coaching by the Beach, where we help you materialize the vision you have for your business, your life, your family, and the world. I'm Trevor McGregor, Master Coach.
And I'm Leesa McGregor, international best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur. Together, we've built an 8-figure empire, and we've broken free from the ordinary to lead lives of extraordinary freedom, impact, and fulfillment. And now we're here to guide you to do the same.
If you've been searching for more success, more wealth, and more freedom, tune in and let's embark on this journey together. All right, we've got just an amazing episode for you folks today. Welcome back to Coaching by the Beach, and buckle up because this is the topic that everybody has been waiting for us to talk about. So I'm here with my beautiful wife, Leesa. How are you?
I am amazing.
That is awesome. And we're going to talk about why people fail to achieve what we call financial freedom. That's right, financial freedom. Let's have a conversation about money. Let's have a conversation about you and what might be happening that's preventing you from getting the clarity that you need to go from wherever you are to where you want to be with your financial awareness. So Leesa, why don't you kick us off with just why so many people have reached out to us to cover this specific topic?
Well, financial freedom is kind of like, it's vague, people say I want financial freedom. Well, what does that look like? What does that mean? And I think this topic is so underexplored. I think we talk in platitudes. We say, okay, well, I want to be financially free. But what does that actually mean? And what is it that you're willing to do to create that financial freedom? Some of the things that we talk about a lot with our clients is like, you want money, but how much money do you want? How much is enough? And what are you using that money for? And so this episode is really about how to create financial freedom. And we're going to share some ideas and perspectives with you that I think will be pretty radically paradigm shifting. I know for ourselves, it's been a huge liberation when it comes to the aspect of finances. I mean, when I think back to the journey we've been on, we have gone through financial struggle. We've gone through the sleepless nights. When we've made money, we've had times in our lives where we've lost a lot of money. And, we get back up and we keep going. And so this subject is really something that we feel very passionate about. We want you to have financial freedom, and it's actually easier than you think to create financial freedom.
That's it. And it's really all about getting clarity. It's understanding where you're at, where you want to go, getting rid of any excuses why you're not the chosen one, or you come from the wrong side of the tracks, or, something's happened in your life that's preventing you from achieving what it is that you want. And so let's start off by defining what financial freedom is. And I think a lot of people, think of it as getting to some place at some point. When we want to really talk about it's the pursuit of it. It's really about transitioning from wherever you are. Because I know some of you that are watching this or listening to this right now, you might be in debt. You might be carrying some debt from business, or maybe you've gone through a divorce, or maybe you've gone through some struggle, or maybe you've got aging parents, or maybe the pandemic did something to you. And guess what? That's okay. We see you, we hear you, we acknowledge you. And then we've got some of you that might be just kind of making ends meet. You might be just kind of making enough money to survive every month or every quarter or every year. And that's okay as well. And then we've got some of you that are maybe on your way to achieving whatever financial goals you set for yourself. So we're going to talk about this as if it was relatable for anybody, regardless of where you are right now. So Leesa, how would you speak to that? And what do you want to start with?
Well, I think the biggest paradigm shift I've had around financial freedom, and this really comes from a place like we're not coming to you as two people that had a silver spoon. We did not rely on our parents for money. We started from the ground zero. We built ourselves from ground zero. And the fact of the matter is we've also lost money over the years. We've made money, we've lost money. We've made millions of dollars, we've lost, and we've learned a lot along the way. And the big takeaway, the thing that I've realized when it comes to creating financial freedom is it's a state of mind. Financial freedom is a state of mind. It's about knowing that you have the capacity inside of yourself to create something that will create value for yourself, for your family, for the world. And when you finally realize that that's what financial freedom is, financial freedom isn't necessarily just a number in your bank account. It's
Right.
not 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, because the fact of the matter is you can ask anybody and the number is going to be different. You know, some people say that they're going to be financially free once they've had $1 million. Some are going to say I'm financially free once I've made 5 million. Some are going to say I'm going to be financially free once I've made 10 million. But what about if you realize that your financial freedom comes with the very idea that you have the ability to create? You have the ability to create something. And I think this is the thing that the world is lacking right now. I think
Yes.
we live in this time where everybody's distracted, they're frustrated, there's division, there's arguments, there's all of this stuff going on, all this negativity. And we're missing the point. We're missing the point that we were born to create. We were born to create, and we've got that capacity inside of ourselves. And so what I'm trying to say here is that when you finally realize that you've got the capacity to create value for other people, and you really focus on that, you focus on how can I create value? How can I create value for others? Now, that doesn't just have to be a business. That can be in your business. That can be in your career. It's how do I create a level of value that allows me to be compensated? You know, the law of compensation is about giving to receive. You know, the more that you give of yourself, the more you give of yourself. If you make the most of yourself and step into the best of yourself and find a way to make that contribution, then you receive the money, you receive the income. And that's financial freedom. That's where you never have to worry about money again. Once you realize that you have the ability to make money, to create value, and to really help people in some way, shape, or form, you have financial freedom. You don't have to wait until you've got the Freedom 55. You don't have to wait until you've got the 10 million in the bank. So let's talk about that. Let's
Well-
talk about the myth of Freedom 55 as
Well,
an
again, I
example.
love this because, again, most people don't really understand that money is a byproduct of creating value. And some of you are creating value for your employer. Some of you are entrepreneurial. Some of you have a side hustle. Some of you are in real estate. Some of you are in e-commerce. I mean, there's many ways to, create value and make money. But I want to go back to something you said, because I think it would be a disservice to the listener if we didn't really talk about how everybody is really focused on the wrong thing. So, Leesa, you talked earlier about how people are distracted. There's so much going on with the economy. There's so much going on in politics. There's so much going on with craziness overseas and even some crazy weather patterns throughout North America and the world. Tell me a little bit more about what that distraction is doing and how people are really cheating themselves out of using what you call their creative codes.
Yeah, I think that's the truth. I think the reality is that we get sort of run down, right? We lose hope, we lose faith, and it's easy to feel that way. If you tune into the news and you tune into what's happening, you think, "Oh my gosh, like is the world getting worse?" And the fact of the matter is we still have to come back to ourselves every single day, and what can we do in this time that we're living through to create the future that we really want to see, to create the world that we really want to see? And I think that's where we're missing the mark. What is the new story that we're trying to create for humanity? And how can we create it in such a way that it benefits us, it benefits our family, it benefits our community, and it benefits the world? And I think if we start spending our time and our energy and our vision creating a vision of a future that benefits everybody, a world where everybody wins. What does that look like? How can you create value and find a way to solve some of the world's biggest problems? I mean, the reality is every entrepreneur that's ever done something quite remarkable has started with the idea of solving a problem. So if you want to create financial freedom, figure out how to solve a problem for yourself, for someone else. You know, the greatest ideas, the greatest businesses that have ever been born were born out of the idea that there was a problem that somebody wanted to solve. You know, and I'll use myself as an example. I think back to the day when I decided to write a children's book. Now, that was born actually out of both a vision and a frustration. what I realized when I was reading books is that a lot of the times I felt like the books that I was reading to my child didn't really mean very much. There wasn't a meaning or a story or a lesson or something that I really wanted to teach my child. And so I thought, what if I were to create a book that would allow me to teach my child meaningful values, virtues, have meaningful conversation at the end of the day? Now, did I know that we were going to spark a movement in children's education, make millions of dollars? Did I know that that was going to happen? No. But what I did is I started with an idea that I wanted to create something that was going to add value to the world. And that's just a small example. I mean, I really look back at our lives and I think, gosh, that's how we did it. That's how we created money for ourselves. That's how we started every time, was with an idea or a vision for how we were going to solve a problem or how we were going to help other people to solve problems. So I can't say enough about that. I think that's where we're missing the mark. We stay in distraction and we stay in this idea of that we're victims and that we're victims to the economy, or the fact of the matter is we've all lost money. We've had businesses that have failed. I mean, there's nothing that you can tell us that we haven't either experienced ourselves or other people have experienced. And I think it's important to realize that your persistence, your resilience, your ability to think about the long term is absolutely essential if you want to get to that place of financial freedom.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, most people think too small. Most people think it's going to take a long time, or I don't have enough resources, or I'll need a team. And what you need is just a thought, right? Because thoughts become things. And like you said, anything that's ever been created started with a thought. That thought became a thing, and then you can always make it better or bring other people in to help you to scale. But let's go back to, our journey. I mean, you literally grew up very similar to me. We were middle class. We didn't have a lot of money. Our parents did the best they could, probably like a lot of our listeners' parents, but we knew we wanted more. And as we went out there and got our education, we started to work in corporate, we started to really understand and appreciate that, that was a great, great, great part of our journey. But it was also, not great that we were working in corporate, making other people rich instead of, building our future and our empire. And that's when the light bulbs started to go off for me. And I know they started to go off for you as to, what would happen if we took the skill set, the knowledge, the wisdom from our corporate world and entered into the entrepreneurial world? And for me, that became real estate. That real estate thing then turned to coaching. Coaching turned to consulting. And we've literally created things step by step by step by really getting crystal clear on, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the decisions you make and with the next step. So ultimately, I know you left your corporate position to do some real estate, to get into many different forms of coaching and consulting. And obviously, congrats on your book. But really, what's preventing other people from seeing things differently? And a lot of people stay stuck. But what would you say is a way for people to get unstuck?
Well, I think it's fear. I think the reality is that fear can rule us. Fear rules us, and it prevents us from living our best life. It prevents us from going for our dreams, going for the gold. I remember an old quote that says, "Fortune favors the brave." When you really start to bet on yourself, and you realize that even failure is only feedback, and that you keep going, and we can share from personal experience. I mean, honey, we've made investments. We look back and we go, oh my gosh, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
We made 6-figure investments that literally vaporized.
Yep.
And we had to recover from that. And the thing that kept us going was realizing that what you do realize once you start to learn how to make money, how to grow businesses, how to generate cash flow, how to make investments that increase, you realize that you build skill along the way. And so financial freedom is about cultivating skill and resilience and the capacity to continue on the journey. And so the thing that we always realize when we look back at the things where we lost money, it's like, okay, we learned a lesson there. What was the lesson, right? For some of the investments we made, we realized, okay, those weren't necessarily proven, or the people we invested in were not necessarily, people that we vetted enough before we made the investment. So, we've made those mistakes, but we come back to the fact that we're ready to keep going. We're ready to go again. We're ready to put ourselves back in the game, get back into the ring. I mean, life is a game. Life is a journey. And so, you've got to realize that those things are actually the situations and experiences that can strengthen you.
So I love that because, again, if you're watching this, you've probably made an investment that didn't work out, or perhaps you invested in a startup or some real estate, or your Uncle Bob came along and said he's got the deal of the century, right? Well, we've had how many of those, sweetie? How many deals do you think we've invested in that have gone upside down? And we're getting vulnerable here, but how many do you think that we've
I don't.
probably missed the mark on?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I just know that every time that we had a deal that went south, we asked ourselves the question, like, are we going to be defeated by this, or are we just going to keep going? And what did we learn from this? And what are we not going to do again? And so, again, life is a series of lessons. It's about learning. It's about growing and evolving and expanding. And so, the failures that we perhaps perceived as failures, the investments that didn't work, the money that we put into things that didn't work out. When I look back, I go, it doesn't really matter because in the grand scheme of things, life has worked out exactly the way we wanted it to. We're sitting here in a place saying to you that, this is like a 15-year journey. And we are now looking back at 15 years and saying, yes, we made some mistakes. We lost money. We also made money. We gained skills. We gained experience. We gained connections. And those are the things that keep you going. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you look at anyone that is very, very successful, let's just use an example, like Elon Musk as an example, okay? If Elon Musk lost all of his money tomorrow, how fast do you think he would be able to go back and recoup the money that he lost? I mean,
very quickly.
The reality is, let's talk a little bit about that, sweetheart.
Well, yeah. And again, I've not had any clients that haven't had what we call money lessons. And money lessons are universal. Doesn't matter if you are educated, doesn't matter if you have no education, doesn't matter if you live in North America or you live, somewhere on the other side of the planet. It's almost like a rite of passage where, you feel you're the only one that's ever had a money situation, or you weren't sure how to pay your mortgage, or you weren't sure how you're going to make your car payment. And again, that kind of stacks. And what happens is most people get into what we call a negative stack. This happened to me, and then this happened to me, and then I got this happened to me. And, they create a story of why they're deep down in the money valley instead of getting, out of the money valley and climbing back up the mountain. And we've been in that valley. A lot of my clients have been in the valley, and perhaps you've been in that valley. But wherever you are today doesn't dictate where you can be tomorrow, right? And that's really what we want to talk about, because when we were in that valley, we had to ask better questions. We had to get more clarity. We had to seek guidance, right? And it was really, like you said, investing in people that really didn't have a track record, a really good track record in what we were putting our money into. And we drew a line in the sand and said, you know what, that'll never happen again, right? And I mean, within, context, we're still willing to take some risks, but we want to, have a little bit of an ability to discern what we really, really, really want to put some money into, where the potential success of that is not guaranteed, but the probability of it is strong, versus what we call a flyer. And a flyer is where we might take a run at something knowing that the upside is very, very strong, and there's a probability that we could lose some of that money as well. So this is what we call perspective. This is what we call having range. And again, as we go back to that concept of what is financial freedom, I think some people still have that number that's pie in the sky, instead of saying, what's the next logical step that will allow me to get from where I am today to where I want to be in the next year? And then from there saying, all right, what do the next 3 years look like? What do the next 5 years look like? It's almost like a series of connecting the dots. So how would you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's important to be practical, but I also think it's important to have a big vision. I think it's important to have a vision. You should really never limit yourself in this area, because the reality is that you can create a level of financial freedom that you cannot possibly comprehend at this very moment, and you don't know how it's going to come together. Sweetheart, I'd love for you to share the story. Do you remember your friend who had his dad as the accountant that set an intention that he was going to leave all the money to his kids?
Oh, yes, that's a great story.
Let's share that with our listeners.
Well, again, it's a near and dear friend of mine, and I won't, say his name for, privacy concerns, but, he was born in Canada to a very large family, and the family had 7 kids. And the mom and dad literally, when they brought their babies home from the hospital, they had cardboard boxes as end tables, and they had to borrow $50 to buy the first baby carriage. They came from nothing. But the dad was an accountant, and he said, one day I'm just going to keep building my life from his 20s to his 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, where he said, one day I'm going to leave every one of my children $1 million. And it was the funniest thing back in the day, and they'd laugh about it, and, they'd cajole about it, and they thought it was, the far out idea that would never happen. But he still believed in the back of his mind that, anything is possible. Fast forward to today, not only has he been able to build this empire where he's got $1 million for each of his children, but he's also got extra for each of the grandchildren. And it just goes to show you that no matter where you are, maybe you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. I know we've got people listening to this in their 70s because I coach people from, age 20 all the way up to about age 84. And it's really about thinking about, the future. And most people think about the past because it's easy. There's references to it. You know where you've come from. You know where the bumps in the road have been. But what if we suspend all of that to step into the present to create what Leesa and I call your predictable future? Because it comes back to adding value. And you can make money actively or you can make money passively. And what we know as high performers is most high performers start by getting crystal clear on what their primary income source is, and then they create multiple sources of income, right? And again, some of them are active, some of them are passive, some of them might be in real estate, some of them might be in e-commerce, some of them might be in consulting, some of them might be, inventing something. I've got many clients right now that have patents. So I really want you to expand what's possible because there's no question about it. For those of you that are ready to have multiple streams of income, you can continue that trajectory towards where you want to be.
I love that so much. And that just really reminds me, financial freedom is about belief. It's about belief in yourself. It's about believing what's possible. It's about believing that you can have something. Again, you might not know exactly how you're going to get there, but if you believe that it's possible, and if you really convince yourself that it's possible, I mean, the opportunities are going to start to present themselves. And, I always say, like, what's your $1 million idea? And I know for myself, the $1 million idea arrived. Now, the $1 million idea for me didn't arrive until my 40s, right? And so that was something I had to wait for. Now, I had yearned for the day that I could make money and make a difference. That was my thing. I wanted to make money and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to impact the world in immeasurable ways. I wanted to make millions of dollars. And I had no idea how that was going to happen. I had no idea how I was going to make millions of dollars. I had no idea how I was going to impact the world. And so, it starts with belief. You've got to be open to possibilities. You've got to be open to the idea that whether you're 40, 30, 20, 50, 60, 70, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, you've got the ability to create something that can positively impact the world. You've got the ability to make millions of dollars. All of us have this capacity inside of ourselves. And whether you want to make millions or you don't want to make millions, it doesn't matter. The reality is that your dreams are available to you, and it's really about having a belief in yourself and what's really possible.
I love it. And a lot of our beliefs really were formed from, coaching, from reading books like Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Thinking into Results, because these are little reminders of other people's journeys that are really your journey, right? I mean, we're all part of the universe. And if you really break that word into two, uni means one and verse means song. We're all part of the same universe. We're all trying to sing the same song of really getting out there, enjoying life, having experiences, making money, having, great relationships and everything in between. So I really want people to realize that, if there's anything worth pursuing, it's really getting that money thing handled. Because when you start to get that money thing handled, and it won't happen in a straight line, it's almost like a roller coaster where you might go up, you might go down, there might be a loop-de-loop where you think you're going to fall out. That's really what it feels like. But as long as you keep your feet moving, there's no question that you can move the needle and arrive where you want to be in really the next few years.
I love that so much. And I think, for me, financial freedom has also changed. For me, financial freedom is having enough money and having enough time to enjoy it. And I think this is a situation for a lot of people where they've got a lot of money, but they haven't got a lot of time.
Right.
They got a lot of time, but they haven't got a lot of money. And I think the sweet spot is exactly that. It's having enough money and having enough time. I know for us, we're in a phase of life where it's about our quality of life. It's about experiences and magic moments with our family and really savoring those moments. And no amount of money in the bank is going to provide that level of fulfillment and happiness and joy. And so financial freedom, again, you can look at it in so many different ways, but financial freedom to us is about having that time and that spaciousness and time to really take care of ourselves, take care of our health, take care of our families, and not have to make decisions based on finances. We can just decide how we want to spend our money, when we want to spend our money, what we want to spend our money on. And I feel like there's so much more to say about this, about financial freedom, but this is really the point that I want to make, which is enough money and enough time.
Well, I love that. And it's also about believing that money is a renewable resource, right? It's not that you're going to make a big pot of it and that's going to be the end of it. It's about let's make some money and then let's really realize that, going out there and adding more value, you might, find a completely different path in your 40s than you did your 30s, or you might find a different path in your 50s than your 40s. But at the end of the day, we're all creative, right? We all got the ability to go out there and really, like you said at the beginning, take a look at what are people really challenged with or what are people struggling with, and how can we close that gap and help them? And that's really what I want the listener to really think into, right? It's almost like the book Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill didn't say do and grow rich. He said think and grow rich, because the thinking has to happen before the doing. And so with that said, as we get ready to wrap here, let's dive into our 3 to Thrive, and let's really give the listener some of our powerful questions to really take this from where they are to where they could be.
I think question number one is, what is your financial freedom number? Now, when I ask that question, I really encourage you to do a deep dive on that. So if you say, okay, well, my freedom number is $1 million. Fantastic. What does that mean to you? And what would you do with that money? How are you going to use that money? I think so many of us get so wrapped up in some fictitious number. And I think it's important to really get clear on that. Like, how much money do you need to live? How much money do you want to have in the future? And really decide, what does that financial freedom look like to you? Write out a vision for what that looks like for you. And I think that's a really important piece.
Yeah, it's really about lifestyle. It's really about how much you're burning every month or what your expenses are every month. And I think a lot of people get intimidated when I really challenge them to sit down with a pen, a paper, and a calculator and really, really, dive into that. So great share there. Question number 2 is really all about, what is preventing you from perhaps moving down that path of starting that second income stream. I bet if you're listening to this, you've got a primary source of income. But if, you were, passionate about something, or if you had an idea or you were inspired by someone else, what is it that you could do to start that second income stream? Because the minute that you do that, I'm telling you, when we did that, that first and second led to a third, a fourth, a fifth. And I'm telling you, it just feels so good knowing that, when you've got that many fishing poles in the water, if you're catching fish with poles number 1 and then number 2 isn't, catching anything, you've got 3, 4, and 5 that can really add to the honeypot.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I think question 3 is, how can you expand your vision for what's possible? And I know for myself, as a woman that's always been on a mission, I've always been on a mission to create a bright future, to create a better world. And so when I think about making money, I think about, like, what is my highest contribution? What is my highest contribution? What is the thing that I can create for the world that's going to create a measurable impact, that's going to move the needle for all of us? And so when you really think big enough, you realize that actually the universe or God is writing the paycheck. They're the ones that are giving you the paycheck. And so, think about how you can expand your vision for what you really want to do to serve people, to help people, help the planet. And when you really start to think big, the ideas start to drop in. How can I help? And also, really, I encourage you also to think about, if you have extra money, could you invest in someone else's dream? I mean, there's just so many people that have dreams and ideas for starting businesses, or they need funding to continue furthering the dream. And how can you support those people? That's just as impactful, rather than just starting your own idea or your own business. And so there's millions of ways that we can create financial freedom for ourselves, for our families, for the world. And so I really encourage you to think big about that today.
I love it. Yeah, whether you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or you want to JV with someone, there's many, many different ways for you to do it. So with that said, We hope you got something out of this show. And again, we want to thank you for all of the DMs, all of the texts, all of the messages coming in, as we really, really do appreciate it. And Leesa, anything else you want to share before we wrap?
Nothing. Thank you so much for tuning in, and peace, love, and palm trees.
Thank you for joining us today at Coaching by the Beach. If this episode helps you to see your path to more success, more wealth, freedom, and fulfillment, we'd love your support.
Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
And don't let your journey stop here. Connect with us in our community of like-minded achievers on all social platforms at Coaching by the Beach.
We're excited to continue exploring this path to freedom with you.